he waddled away, waddle, waddle, till the very next day. Bum, 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 bum.
Just look at him. He's so cute, oh my god. Hey friends, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Hannah and I love to do all sorts of sewing projects. And this week, as you maybe have guessed from the title and the thumbnail, I will be making a duck crossbody bag. And this duck crossbody bag was actually inspired by a follower of mine. So Ilma sent me this lovely picture here and I became so obsessed, and she asked me if I could maybe find a way to make it. Unfortunately, I could not find the original artist or creator of this duck bag. I went on a little deep dive on Pinterest, but I unfortunately couldn't find it at all. But I found some other images that will serve also as my inspiration piece for the duck bag that I want to make. And as a base for this bag, I will actually be using this bag pattern here. I've used that also for my fish crossbody bag. If you haven't seen that video, I would highly recommend that you check that out. And yeah, this will serve as a base, and then I can start adapting my pattern a little bit. And as always, I will link everything in the description. So the bag pattern will be linked in the description, as well as like the other images that I use to create my duck pattern pieces. Okay, so I just wanted to share my idea and thought process for this bag. So as a base, I will be using the bag pattern that I've made a couple of times before. I will link it in the description, and the bag is actually really nice. It has a lot of room inside and I really like the shape, and I think this could work as the shape of the duck basically. And then I would like to attach a wing right here and attach some little leggies, and then attach the neck and the head part right there. And then I'm going to be using this image to sort of, yeah, have a color reference. So I think my base will be a mix of like this brown leftover fabric that I have, and then this, I guess this is like sagey green, but it is very light, so it's almost like a white, honestly. And then for the head and the neck, I would like to add some green, and maybe I would also add a little bit of green onto the wing or something like that. I think that could look quite nice. And then I have this yellow scrap here that I'm gonna use for the beak and the teeny tiny legs. And besides that, I actually just need a zipper. I have this one, which I thrifted a while ago. It is nice and green. And then you need some lining fabric, and I'm also just using scraps. I have this nice brown cotton here. I think that could work quite nicely. And then you need some sort of webbing or straps to attach the little D-rings to, like so. And I just have some leftover pieces that I'm going to use. And then I also have some bias binding to finish off the inside seams. So in my bag here I have added some bias binding just so that I don't have any raw edges showing. But honestly, that's completely up to you. You could also just use a zigzag stitch or a serger, but that's just what I like for having some sort of like clean edges here. And the pattern is actually quite easy. I will, as I said, link the video down below. I love this pattern. Big shout out to the creator. I've made so many of these bags now for family and friends, and I think they're absolutely stunning. And it's quite easy because it's just 3 pattern pieces. So you have the main body, I guess, the main piece, and I also use that piece as a reference for my inner pockets. So if I want to add pockets, I just cut out one more additional piece in my lining fabric, and I make it a little bit shorter so that I basically have a pocket that covers like the bottom 2/3 of my main piece here. And then you need these little wing parts. This is basically this part here where you would attach the strap to. And I think if you look at the bag again, it kind of looks like a little ducktail on one side. So I think that could actually work in our favor. And then lastly, you just need a long strip of fabric to create the bottom part here, where basically your bag is folding out. So I just wanted to show you how I basically do my pattern pieces. And for the duck here, I just looked on Google Images to see, yeah, what images of ducks there are available, and I selected this one. And then I projected onto my TV. You could also use your beamer, projector, or just your computer, or whatever you like. And I basically zoom into the size of the bag. So I compared basically with my main bodice piece to see if the sizing is okay. And then I just put some white paper on there and yeah, trace my pattern pieces. After I've cut out all of my pattern pieces, I started with the basic assembly of the bag, and I wanted to add pockets to my bag. I wanted to have an inner pocket and also an outer back pocket, so I started with those, and then I could assemble the back part of my bag already. So I just very closely followed the tutorial, and I also started assembling the bottom part of the bag. So it is the next day now, and yesterday you saw me basically attaching the few basic pieces of the bag. So I have done the back side as well as the lining, and then I've also attached the bottom of like the lining fabric and also the main fabric, and now I just need to baste them together so that they are basically one piece, and that makes it so much easier to attach everything. So far I followed the pattern quite precisely, and now I think the fun part will start. So I think my next step will actually be to attach the wing to the main bodice part, and then I can do the little feet, the little tippy tappies, and then I think I can attach everything together, and then for my last step I can do the neck and the head part. I wanted to add a bit more detail to both the wing as well as the main body part, and I just cut down scrap fabrics and sort of appliqued or patchworked it on using a zigzag stitch. And then I also added some simple lines using a straight stitch to give it just a bit more detail and a bit more dimension. My duck limbs to be three-dimensional, so for the wings I added several other layers of fabric just to give it a bit more structure and make it a bit more poofy, and I just sewed them on right sides together, leaving a little opening, and then I could turn it inside out and top stitch the opening to close it. And for the head part I just added my little beak in a bright yellow color and sewed it on right sides together, also leaving the neck opening as it is so that I could fill it later with some scrap fabric as well as some leftover pillow filling that I had lying around. And I repeated the same process also for the legs. Oh my god, I just made my first leg. It's so tiny. Oh my god, I love it so much. It's so cute. I think it could have been a bit bigger, but honestly this is kind of fun. And as you can see, I added some very small detailed lines to give the leg a bit more dimension, but it is so cute. Oh my god. And the head, I need to show you the head. It's also so cute. It was at this point that I saw that I completely forgot to add my little loop where you add your back strap to, so I very quickly seam ripped a little opening into my headpiece and inserted my strap in there. Now I want to attach the wing. So I will actually be top stitching the wing on here, maybe not the whole wing, but at least the top part and part of this curve here. And I just need to make sure that I leave enough seam allowance for all edges, especially here, because that's where the zipper will go. So I think I need about 1 centimeter for the zipper, but just to be safe, I will put it a bit below that. And then also for the bottom and the edge, I need to make sure that I don't basically place my wing in the seam allowance. And my next step will be to connect like the bottom strip here to my main bodice piece, like so. So I will be connecting the side seams here. And I also now need to decide on the leg placement. Of course, you could put a leg on either side. So basically do it like this. That would be, I guess, a bit more realistic. But I think I want my legs to sit only on the top side of the duck, because I think otherwise it's a little bit impractical as a bag. And I think I want mine a little bit apart, maybe like so. So I can just mark this and then I will pin it, and I will make sure to actually flip my legs up and then pin them here so that I can sandwich them in between my bodice layer here and then my bottom strip. And I've marked my halfway point, or like the middle of this piece here, as well as my strip, so that I can line them up. And then you basically sew right sides together and you try to match up these side panels here as well. But honestly, sometimes that does not really work out for me. But yeah, this is sort of what it's supposed to be like. So I've just pinned the first side, as you can see, and I've tucked the legs in here. And now I can start sewing. And then this seam you could either finish with a zigzag stitch or some bias binding if you like. Okay, I have attached my bottom piece and my main bodice pieces, and I've also added some bias binding to the edges so that I don't have any raw edges. Honestly, not my best work of bias binding, but it's only on the inside, so no one's actually gonna see it except me, so I think it's fine. And now I just need to figure out which end is sort of the back, and then I can start adding my other little tab for the D-ring. Honestly, I don't have a D-ring, that's why I'm just using the tab, but you could definitely insert a D-ring in here. And yeah, I'm just gonna put that in here so that it's sandwiched in between all of my layers, and then I'm just gonna sew along this edge here. And I usually sew 3 times, honestly, just so that everything is super secure. And then we can turn our duck inside out, and then it's actually time for the head. So the last piece that I need to attach is my head, and I will honestly just put it on like so and then stitch it down. And if you look at the inspo pictures of the ducks that I showed you in the beginning, you notice that they all have these little strips of white or beige on their neck, and I think this part actually emulates that quite nicely. And because I don't want any raw edges showing from my duck head here, I would just simply fold over the edge once, and then I will put it in, pin everything in place, and then I can sew it down. It is 10 p.m. and my duck bag is done, and he looks so cute. I am so happy with him. I found the perfect little button for his eye. I think he's so adorable. I named him Dudley. Dudley the duck, obviously. If you have any other naming suggestions, please let me know in the comments. This was such a fun project to make. Thank you so much to my lovely subscriber Ilma for sending me this funny idea. I love it so much. And if you have anything that you think I could make or I should make, then please let me know. You can text me on Instagram or just comment on my videos. I always read all of your comments. And yeah, feel free to subscribe and like this video. This really helps me out so much. And now it's time for the reveal.
Then he waddled away